Time for an ankylosing spondylitis Q&A. These are all questions that I received on my TikTok live last night, actually. And I thought I'll do a little YouTube video, go through some of the questions I got there and answer them for you here. So first question I got was, what about alcohol and ankylosing spondylitis? So if you look at some of my old videos on this channel, you'll see that I definitely did used to drink my fair share of alcohol. And with what I've been trying to do now, where it's gut regeneration and Paneth cell regeneration being top of the list, alcohol is one of the worst things for Paneth cells. And we need the Paneth cells. I made a video about this. Maybe I'll link it below or here now. We need the Paneth cells to be functioning properly to keep the bacteria in check in our gut. So when we know something is terrible for Paneth cells, like alcohol, you just have to say that if you're really struggling with AS, alcohol is one of the worst things for it. Now, if you get into a better spot with AS, if you get your gut into a better place, obviously the Paneth cells, if they improve, is a bit of alcohol here and there going to completely wipe them out? No, that won't happen. So later on down the line, and kind of where I'm at now, it's like, yes, I can have a drink here and there. Nowhere near like I used to in the uni days, or as we all know, growing up in the UK, what it can be like. We don't want to go back to that because it's just obviously damaging, but early days AS, I would just say, if you can just get rid of it or get as low as you possibly can, this will really help. As we improve, it can come back in moderation, perhaps. Okay, how strict are you with your diet? It's difficult to follow 100%, to be honest. So, again, look at my old videos. You'll see how I started strict on AIP, and then some of my videos literally titled, "Can you do the 80-20 and get away with it?" Which basically is me saying, can I just diet when I feel like it and get away with it? I've tried it. It kept me off meds, kept me off like heavier medications, just using ibuprofen here and there, dieting when I wanted to. It did work to an extent, but then eventually it got to a point just before I go deep into the gut work, that diet stopped working. And yes, that's when I realized, with your question being how strict are you, that's when I realized, okay, I can't just be iffy on my diet. And then even when I go full diet, I went full carnivore or went full perfect on my diet, it was no help to the AS. So that's when I realized, okay, I've got to do more there's going to be more. I know I need to look into the gut. That's when I started looking into the gut. And then that's when I went fully strict on my diet as well as all the gut work. And I'm sure that it's pretty important. You can't go 5 days on, 2 days off when you're in a mess with AS. You just can't. In terms of to get the speed of improvement that you want, especially if you're not doing any gut work as well, the diet just has to be nailed down. Now, nowadays, is there a few percent here and there that isn't as nailed on as it used to be? No. And am I fine with it? Yes. Very happy to say that. But yeah, you can get to a point where your gut is in a better place. You can handle more foods. Don't have to be 100% strict. But can I be 80-20ing it? And the 20 obviously being, like, we're talking processed foods, crap foods, sugar foods, fast foods. No, you cannot do that. I'm pretty certain you'll just end up in a similar place in the future. Maybe you'll get away with it for a good amount of time, a few months, maybe in a few years, but no. So yeah, I'm pretty strict. Was very strict at first. Now there's a few percent here and there. What do I think about running with ankylosing spondylitis? With any exercise, modality, anything you like doing, the way I see it work for most people and with myself is there's nothing to be fearful of. If there is no pain and there's no increase in inflammation and pain afterwards, you're fine. There doesn't seem to be any secret damage you're doing that you don't know about. Now, could there be low-level inflammatory activity happening regardless? Yes, but that'll be there whether you exercise or not. So with running, go for it. If it works for you, if you can do it. I imagine the person that may be able to run with AS is not a person that has severe SIJ inflammation, because that's what I had. And walking was a real problem, let alone running. Running seemed like the most distant thing I could possibly ever do. So, but if you're a spine stiffness person, which isn't nice, and there's many things you can't do, but you could probably get away with a bit of a jog or a run and go for it. And most people will see if they can find some exercise that does work, some sort of training, exercise, sport that doesn't make it worse, it'll tend to make everything better. Just exercise being the greatest thing that we can do for our bodies, but also what it actually does for the AS in terms of bringing down the pains and stiffness and the inflammation, mega. So running, yes, as would anything you could say. What about the hopscotch? What about weightlifting? What about, I don't know, jumping out of airplanes? I would say go for it. If there's no pain during or pain after, go for it. But by the way, do everything else. Back to the alcohol one. If I ever drink, which one is less harmful, wine or beer? Well, between those two, I'll probably go to wine because of the gluten, and beer. Beer is probably the worst. Gluten, high starch. Although to be fair, it's not high sugar, but obviously the high starches will be converted into sugars that can then ferment, feed bacteria. Just the ultimate bevy, the ultimate drink I'd go to. By the way, if you're having alcohol is the worst part of the drink, so don't start giving yourself a big pat on the back with this drink, but it is better. We go vodka or gin, we go sparkling water, some lemon and lime or lemon and lime drops, and some mint leaves. A little cocktail for you there. Is it, again, alcohol is the issue, but everything else is not a problem at all. So that's what I'd go to. Another question. Did I experience lots of cracking in my joints in the back, like after sitting down? No, I never really had any cracking in the joints, really. Just severe pain, inflammation for me. And it's not something I see often. Let me know in the comments if you're someone who has cracking in the joints. Any tips on fatigue? Tried supplements, diet, working out, but nothing seems to help for me. I was in the same boat, and in terms of wasn't sleeping through the night at all, and horrendous brain fog. You could call it fatigue, just felt horrendous, just felt sick all the time during the AS issues as well. But even just when the AS wasn't flaring, I'd put that down too. And everything I tried to an extent wasn't having any benefit. It was only once I realized how much of an issue I had within my gut, within my microbiome. For me, the SIBO was probably causing a hell of a lot of problems. Once I started dealing with that, the fatigue dropped, as did the AS. And then obviously the other issues I had dealing with them, the candida, the yeast, the probably Klebsiella I had, Enterobacter, specific kind of bacteria that are linked to disease and fatigue, to be honest. So I did a bit of a gut protocol for fatigue. If you've already tried these things and they're not working, I'd say you need to make the next step to deeper work on the gut. Know any peptides for skin health? Yes, I've not used them that much, but I've used briefly GHK copper peptide serum. I think I had Neurogan Health I tried for a bit, and there's another one from ASEA Custom. I don't think it's great for eczema or psoriasis, which I kind of tried it for when I had eczema. Didn't really help, but it's good for appearance and the reformation of the skin. So I don't really look too much into skin health, but I know I've used that briefly. I had have SIBO. I've read L-glutamine is good, but nervous it'll make me feel unwell. So L-glutamine is good, but you won't want to use it long term, that's for sure. I've just used it for a short period before going into an antimicrobial phase to boost secretory IgA, to boost the immune system, get it ready for what's to come. So it's absolutely not top of a SIBO protocol, that's for sure. It doesn't even need to be used. So if you've got SIBO, there's lots to look into. There's obviously the main agents to use. The main ones that I used in the initial protocol was allicin and berberine. They're the main two I used for my SIBO. But I was taking about 20 to 30 supplements around this as well to do all the other things that were needed to be done. Because the question you've got to ask as well is, why is the SIBO there? SIBO is bacterial translocation, when it's managed to escape through a leaky gut and get to a place where it shouldn't be. It's called chemotaxis, where bacteria moves from a place that's less favorable to a more favorable environment. And it's allowed to do that by the weaknesses within your system. So yes, the SIBO's got there, but it shouldn't have got there, and we need to get rid of it. But why did it get there in the first place? And if we don't deal with the why, it will likely come back, or it'll be super hard to actually deal with it. So what that comes to there is sealing tight junctions in the gut, fixing leaky gut, look at peptides, look at many different supplements for that. And also the Paneth cell, and then the stem cells, which can differentiate into Paneth cells. We need them to be functioning properly as well, because they're the things that will make sure bacteria in the gut are dealt with before they can escape through and get to the SIBO. So there's a few things to look at there. L-glutamine is a part of the answer perhaps, but it's not the only thing. What are your thoughts on peptide injections? My boyfriend wants to start them and I don't think he should. So I've used many different peptides. I'm coming to the end, or just finished one recently that worked well, but I'm having some interesting reactions with it. I'll talk about this in the future. But the ones I've used throughout, and I'm a big fan of peptides for what they've done for me: GHK, BPC, thymosin beta 4. The one I've used now, it's antimicrobial. I'll talk about that one in the future. But they're one of the, do your research. They're one of the best studied things for what we're trying to deal with here. I've used them throughout my gut repair work, and yes, had some of my best improvements from these. So obviously, maybe get guidance with it, maybe make sure you do it right, but don't be fearful of these in terms of they are proven to have many good benefits, and they seem to work. And just speaking personally here, I'm a big fan, and they've worked very well for me. How do they diagnose AS whilst being HLA-B27 negative? So if you've got the symptoms and if they can see it on a scan. So X-ray has obviously been quite progressed, and there's bone formations or fusions, but an MRI more likely would only to pick up active inflammation within the spine or the SIJs. That should diagnose it for you without HLA-B27. Let's have a look at one more question here. So can you prevent bamboo spine? So the ultimate question of, can we stop the worst happening with AS? I'm just going to speak from personal here. It seems so. It's from what I've done with myself here, it seems like I can bring the active inflammation down to pretty much zero. From how it actually feels, like I don't feel any pain or inflammation apart from antimicrobial work, reactions, or self-inflicted stuff. There's no flare-ups, there's no inflammation, and even the reactions are so short-lived. It's like, I'll have a 1-day reaction and then it's gone, whereas in the past, 1-day reaction would always be at least a few weeks of a flare. So just for myself, it seems like I can stop the inflammation. It seems like I can stop the stiffness. So long term, I'm hoping that means you can stop bamboo spine. I can stop the disease from progressing, but you'll see me on YouTube here. You'll see me online. I'll keep you updated with how it goes. Let's see. It seems to work for other people as well, where we can bring down the active inflammation, have them feeling much better. That's all what we can do, it seems. There's many ways of getting there with the drugs and the medications as well, although I've got my reservations for them. I've not gone down that route. But there's ways to get there where we can stop the progression of the disease for me and feel healthier as well, and not have any other issues in other places. Like, we can, by looking at the gut, I believe we can actually make everything within our body perform better for the long term. And with this should prevent bamboo spine. That's what I'm hoping. But who knows? I assume the medical world and the drugs and everything will get better in the next few years with AI as well. So let's assume we'll have even more things open to us as options. But for the gut stuff and lifestyle and diet, seems to work. So yes, if you've got any more questions, leave them in the comments below. I'll also, if I didn't tag it already, if you wanted to watch this video on the gut cell you need to recover to beat ankylosing spondylitis, I'd say, click on this video here. It's all about Paneth cells.